What is up, guys? Welcome back to another fantasy football video. Game week 2 is finished, and we did okay during the game week, 63 points, which is not terrible, but not great. I mean, I am aiming for an average of 70 points per game week, which is really difficult to do, but um, on the game weeks where the average is higher, the idea is to score at least 10 points above the average, or between 10 to 20 points. But it's not been a bad game week. It's not been great either. I guess in the beginning it always seems harder to get ahead because the scores are so much higher because there's more players. I mean, we can see here almost 7.5 million players. It's difficult to get ahead on that. But we've not got off to a bad start. I think the main damager for me has been not having Antonio. So we just finished watching the West Ham versus Leicester match. Antonio, I think in hindsight, obviously Captain Hindsight is always right, but in hindsight it was probably wise to start with him. I mean, 1 goal, 2 assists, 2 goals, 1 assist. I mean, West Ham scoring 4 goals in both those games. I'm sure that won't be the case in every game, and you know it will be. They won't always score that many goals, but I think in hindsight, 30% owned and scoring a total of 26 points, that will probably be the highest scoring forward now. Not having him can be really damaging. So, yeah, if you don't have Antonio, I imagine this probably won't be the best week for you, unless your captain went well, which is another thing which we struggled with this week, which was the captaincy. I think the difficulty was between Salah and Fernandes. I felt comfortable not captaining Salah because of Burnley being Salah and sort of Liverpool's bogey team, but I was really expecting so much more from United. I mean, I did have a feeling that Southampton may turn up at home, but yeah, wasn't expecting the 1-1. I was expecting more from Fernandes, but looking at his general threat and creativity, wasn't too promising either. 29 and 30, so it's nothing great, but I mean, we're gonna have to monitor Fernandes because when his fixtures get to around game week 7, this could be when it may be worth getting him out for Lukaku potentially. But yeah, so the other thing I want to discuss was transfers which I made. So I brought in Jack Grealish for Jota. A bit of a sideways move, but I thought that bringing Grealish in will be, I think that over the course of the season, especially when Man City have good fixtures, I think that Grealish will perform. And even if he doesn't start the game, or if he sits on the bench the whole time, I've got a decent bench. I mean, I've just transferred out Bertrand, so I will have a stronger bench. But as long as you've got a strong bench, I don't think it's too much risk to have players who can score lots but may not always start. I think that's the risk mitigator, is making sure that you have a strong bench. Okay, so I'm just reviewing the game week. I mean, I think pretty much most predictions went well, other than this game, the Brighton versus Watford game. I predicted Watford to win, but actually I think that was probably one of the only predictions, and probably Aston Villa versus Newcastle, which I got wrong. I predicted a draw for Aston Villa versus Newcastle. I think it could have been a draw, but 2-0 seemed like a pretty fair result too, and I predicted Watford to win. But other than that, and potentially United. So maybe three fixtures basically. 3 fixtures that we didn't see, results-wise, we didn't see coming. But I mean, to predict the rest of them is pretty good. So if we can continue that ability to predict the match outcomes, then we should definitely be better off in terms of predicting the players to get in. But yeah, I think so. So in summary, for game week 2, I think not having Antonio has hurt us a little bit, and potentially we'll have to monitor how Jack Grealish does, because it is a bit risky bringing him in. But I just, it was one of those intuitive picks where I thought I just like him as a player. That doesn't always work out in FPL, but as a player, I really like Grealish. I think he could easily have a season like Sterling has had. He's got the ability and talent. His goal wasn't even that good, but he just gets in the right positions. And I feel like Pep will help him add that to his game in terms of his finishing and creativity, especially when De Bruyne is in the team. I imagine once De Bruyne comes back and it's him and De Bruyne starting rather than him and Gundogan, it could even be Gundogan, De Bruyne and Grealish on the left if Sterling's not starting. This is one of the things I like about him as well. It's how versatile he is. It makes him less risky for rotation, simply because he can start in multiple positions. He's not just specific to one position. But anyway, the point of this video is that I wanted to get into Game Week 3 and my Game Week 3 predictions, and just kind of like have a quick overview of what my thoughts are on players to bring in, fixtures to target, that sort of thing. So let's just have a quick look at each fixture. Okay, so first up we've got Man City versus Arsenal. I think so far it's fair to say that Arsenal have had quite a disappointing season. But again, it has only been 2 game weeks, but I think with the players that they've brought in, Odegaard bringing in and Lokonga, and kind of, we were kind of expecting a bit more from Mikel Arteta, and it's definitely been disappointing that they've not even scored a goal yet. I mean, it's fine to lose against Chelsea, but to lose against Brentford as well, and then now you play Man City, it's not looking good for Arteta. But yeah, in terms of prediction, I think this match could go. It could go any of the 3 ways. I think it's actually quite a tricky game to predict, because Arteta and his team will basically, it will be make or break for them. I mean, if they lose 3 games on the trot, it's going to put him in such a tricky position, and the players basically have to step up for him. But having said that, he's playing Man City. I mean, it's not like just trying harder is going to make you have a better result. You have to actually have good tactics and good management of the game, which I feel like Arteta is really lacking. Arsenal don't look like a team who know what they're doing in terms of tactics, and I think that's the biggest difference. In fact, that was highlighted probably the most in the contrast between Arsenal and Chelsea. Tuchel is a guy who is so tactically astute, and he knows the details of tactics inside and out. And Mikel Arteta, the complete opposite in my opinion. He's not a versatile tactician, and I think that's really what's showing here. So I can see an Arsenal bounce back, but I think what I'm learning from previous predictions is that I want to make less variety in my predictions, so more certainty in my prediction. I'm going to go with a Man City win. I'm going to go with 3-0. I think that, I think that Arsenal could get a goal, but I think that Man City have got a good defence. Laporte's back now as well. Diaz and Laporte make a great partnership. I think I'm going to go with 3-0 Man City. Okay, Aston Villa versus Brentford. Again, I didn't have a chance to watch the Aston Villa match, but the general consensus was that they could have easily let in goals, and they could have easily not won that game. They got a little bit lucky, or more so that Newcastle got a little bit unlucky with some of the VAR decisions. So I think it may have been Callum Wilson that scored a goal, but it was classed as offside. So it was by very, very fine margins. So I think I could see this game being a draw. I think that both these sides are relatively evenly matched, but I see there being goals in this game. So I think I'm going to go for a 1-1 in this game. I think that Villa can definitely score against Brentford, but equally Brentford can score against Villa. So yeah, I see this being a 1-1 draw. Brighton versus Everton. Interesting team, Brighton. I think that so far they've played, let's have a look. They have played Watford and Burnley. So the competition isn't that steep. I mean, they've not really been tested just yet. I don't think either of those 2 teams are anything exceptional, especially at the start of the season, when sometimes, I mean, the lower end of the table teams, they don't start to pick up until later in the season when the pressure is on. I feel like that may be the case, especially for Burnley, and it may also be the case for Watford, but they're a bit unknown at the moment. But they're playing Everton. Everton are a team who, even though they're organised, they don't seem like, they just seem to make defensive mistakes, and they don't seem like they're quite ticking just yet in terms of defensively. Yes, they've got a great midfield, great forwards, a decent defence, but Coleman is ageing. Luca Dean, if he gets forward too much, it leaves space in behind. And Michael Keane and Yeremina, I don't think they're the best partnership. I think that Godfrey and Mina are the best partnership at Everton, but they're not starting just yet. think if they are starting, I do see Everton keeping a clean sheet. But if they're not starting, I could see Brighton winning this game. But again, I actually think we're going to go for. I think I'm going to go for another draw. I'm going to go for 2-2, because I think that Brighton's solid at home, but Everton's main strength right now is putting goals in the back of the net. I think that Calvert-Lewin, Charlison, um, two good teams, as two good players, and they can score goals. Brighton, I think that they're solid at home, and I think I wouldn't put it past it. Mopé is in good form. I think Trossard could also maybe come to form, and Gross. So I can see this as being a 2-2 draw. In terms of tactics, Everton seem to like to play on the counter, like to play direct, fast football rather than possession-based football. And Brighton are actually kind of the opposite. They kind of like to play out for the back, play possession-based football. Although Graham Potter does change tactics a lot, so personally, I actually see Everton kind of have the advantage here. But Brighton have the advantages in that they've kind of got the home form going for them. So I see this being a 2-2. Newcastle versus Southampton. I think now, if there ever was a time for Ralph Hasenhüttl to get some momentum going, now would be the time. Newcastle are vulnerable. They're not necessarily they're not necessarily an informed team, but they've got all their best players fit at the moment, which is makes it even worse for them. So right now, I see Newcastle as probably the worst team in the league, by a long shot. I mean, yeah, I mean if you're losing to Aston Villa 2-0 and Aston Villa aren't even in good form and they're not playing well, and you're losing 4-2 to West Ham at home, I can see there being goals in this game. But I'm going to go for a 3-0 to Southampton. I think that Southampton will put some goals past Newcastle, and I think that Armstrong will be involved in the goals as well as Che Adams. So I'm going to go for 3-0 to Southampton. Norwich versus Leicester. Tricky fixture to predict because obviously Leicester have just lost, but Norwich are in a similar position to Arsenal now, where it's kind of make or break for them. They've had 2 losses on the bounce. They cannot afford another loss really, and even if they have a good run of fixtures after this, they need to get some momentum going. The pressure is on to win. Now, just because the pressure's on doesn't mean they will win. Leicester, right now for Leicester, I think their main problem is that they don't have Johnny Evans. They don't have a stable back line, and it makes a huge difference to the whole team. I think I saw a comment made by, I'm not exactly sure who it was, may have been Harvey Barnes, which said that how vital Johnny Evans is to the team in terms of commanding leader, commanding presence. And I think that makes a huge difference. So I think if they don't have Johnny Evans starting, I could actually see, difficult. I think this could be a 2-1 to Norwich. I actually see this could be a Norwich win if Leicester don't have Johnny Evans fit, which is a very good chance that he won't be fit. Okay, West Ham versus Crystal Palace. Obviously, West Ham are the team in form right now. Scored 8 goals. They look a team who are great on the counter attack. I've not watched enough of Palace to know how they even play, what their play style is. But just going off pure instinct, I mean, this is not what the stats show, but I think that Palace may be a team who are actually more vulnerable to set pieces and open play rather than the counter attack. And West Ham really kind of specialise in the counter attack. So we've seen just against Leicester then, they had less of the possession, but they just seem to put goals past them. I mean, 4 goals with minimal possession means that you must be good at the counter attack. So I think that's their main strength. And now with Crystal Palace, I don't know if they're weak to counter attacks. They kind of just seem a weak team all around. I mean, they did draw 0-0 to Brentford, but it seemed like there were chances during that game. I think that they've got to score eventually. They can't be scoring 0 goals in their 3rd game week. So I could see this being a 1-1 draw. Actually, I don't think it's going to be as in West Ham's favour as people think. I think it's going to be a 1-1 draw. I mean, the Palace are going to scrape by. I think that West Ham will probably have the better chances. Maybe they just won't finish them. I think that's the feeling that I'm getting. I think that it's going to be a 1-1 draw. So obviously, if you've got Antonio and Benrahma, you may as well just keep them. No sense in getting rid. They've got decent fixtures, West Ham. So yeah, 1-1 draw I'm going with. Liverpool versus Chelsea. Another difficult one to predict. Liverpool obviously very strong at Anfield, very very strong at Anfield. But Chelsea right now, to me, are like they're the team to beat. Under Tuchel, they're just so defensively solid. And really, they're similar to West Ham's, and their main strength is the counter attack. But then again, Liverpool's main strength is also the counter attack because of how much pace they've got. But personally, I think that Chelsea have the advantage here, even though Liverpool are playing at home, and home play seems to be the real advantage here at the moment. But Chelsea just seem to be, yeah, they just seem to be a team. Um, how do I put it? A team on a mission, I would say. I think that they've got this real winning mentality about them, and now with Lukaku as well. I see this being a 1-0 to Chelsea. I actually think that Liverpool will struggle in this game. I see this being a 1-0 to Chelsea. Okay, so Burnley versus Leeds. Interesting game. I think last time this fixture happened, Leeds won 4-1 or 4-0, I think. So they're definitely not they're not got bad away form, and Burnley's home form isn't as great as people may think anymore. So yeah, tricky one. I think there will definitely be goals because there always is in Leeds games. I think this, I think this could be a high scoring game. I see this being a 3-2 to Leeds. I think that Burnley are on a bad run of form, but that form is going to continue in my opinion. I think that Burnley don't tend to pick up form until later in the season. Leeds, there's always pressure on Leeds to score goals. Like they're an open play team who just like passing, counter attack. They can do pretty much everything when it comes to scoring goals, and not much when it comes to defending. So I would say that there's going to be a 3-2 to Leeds. Spurs versus Watford. I think so far what we've learned most about Spurs is that there's probably a little bit of a lack of creativity for Spurs. Without Kane, I think that that Son Kane link up just adds so much variety to their game, and adds a different dynamic. If Kane is fit, I could see this being something like a 3 or a 4-0 maybe. But then again, if he's coming back, yeah, difficult to predict. In fact, I'm not going to go with 3-0 or 4-0 even if Kane is back. I think this will probably be a 1-1. I think that Watford will actually surprise Spurs. I think the Spurs are a team that can keep the goals out, but they don't seem like the type of team who are very free flowing, creating loads of chances. And Nuno teams typically aren't really like that. They tend to play more Mourinho style football. But obviously, if you've got Son and you've got any of the front three or Ali, so like Bergwijn or Lucas or Ali, I'll just keep them. If Kane comes back, I think probably the most likely to get benched is Bergwijn because Son will be pushed out to the left and Kane will be playing a striker. But yeah, I mean, I think this will probably be a 1-1. I think that Watford may surprise Spurs a little bit. Having said that, Watford are probably the team that I've predicted the least correct score predictions for so far. I got it wrong against Aston Villa and I got it wrong against Brighton. So if there's one fixture not to listen to me on, it's probably this one. But yeah, I'm going to go with a 1-1 draw. Wolves versus Man United. Tricky fixture this. I think that United will win. Despite the performance against Southampton being so lackluster, I think that United will bounce back. I still don't have much faith in Wolves. I think they're just a team who they've not figured out their identity yet. They've not got great finishers. Traore is a terrible finisher, but they've got great principles in. Bruno Lage has got great principles which he can bring to football, but he's not got the right players to bring out those principles, and that shows in the formation that he's playing. Usually he would play a 4-3-3, but he's having to play a 3-4-3 because he doesn't have the right players for his tactics. So I think that's going to play to Man United's advantage, and I see this being a 2-0 win to United. Okay, so that's pretty much my predictions for game week 3 and a review of game week 2. I think in general, to summarise, not having the high ownership players has hurt my score a little bit, like Antonio and maybe also Alexander-Arnold. So definitely, I mean, I did say in my first review of game week 1 and prediction of game week 2, the real test will be to see how my players score from game weeks 1 to 3. Granted, that's not accounting for bringing in new players like Grealish, and I've just brought in James as well. And that's something I'll just point out as well. I've made a quite an early transfer and bringing in James. Um, Now this could potentially just be a knee-jerk reaction, but I didn't mind. I didn't put this in the video, but if now's a good time to say it, then I'll say it now. I do think Chelsea will win the season, and obviously that means that their defenders are going to get a lot of points. So even if James does get rotated, I'm confident that my bench is good enough to fill in for his spot. And when he's not rotated, I see him gain points even in the tough fixtures. I could easily see even in the tough fixtures against Liverpool, Tottenham, City, I could easily see them being 1-0s or 0-0s or a 2-1, but he gets an assist. There's just so much potential for the fullbacks. The only downside is if he doesn't play, and the main risk to his spot, I'd say, is probably Azpilicueta, because the third centre back spot on the right can very easily be rotated, and if Azpilicueta is usually their captain, then he's always going to be in the side, whether it's as a right centre back or a right wing back, and they may Tuchel may want to rest James, especially when the Champions League starts. But so long as you've got a strong bench, I think that you minimise the risk. 5 and 6 is probably the riskiest thing. I think ideally it would have been great to wait till game week 7, but I wanted to get rid of Bertrand to avoid the price drop and to get in on that price rise for Reece James, because I do see him being a long-term pick. Same with Grealish. That's why I'm picking these players to get in for the long term. So even if they don't score well over game week 3, I think that they will score well from then onwards. So yeah, that's my reasoning behind picking James. Okay, so that's the end of this video. Hopefully you'll find it useful, and even if even if you've not not had a great start to the season, use some of the predictions I'm making, and if they go well, hopefully that'll be useful to you. Try and focus on gathering as much data as you can, gathering stats. I will be gathering more stats for shots on target, shots conceded on target. So I will eventually do a video on teams to target for and teams to target against, and that should help people make better decisions in terms of who to captain and which players to bring in. So stay tuned for that, and until then, take care.